Okay, well, we'll get started with, we have Health Department update, CAPS annual report, human trafficking presentation with Dave Bell, and then our round robin. So take it away, Cindy.
Hi, everybody. So we have had a lot of change happening as far as COVID goes since the last time that I met with you all. We've seen a rapid decline in cases. Right now, we are down to 36 average daily new cases per 100,000 people in the past 7 days. Our case numbers are coming in much lower. While we like that to be a sign of hopefulness, and we really did expect that we were going to see a pretty sharp decline, we also know that about the time that we saw our numbers plummeting was also when we had just completely flooded the entire community with free at-home test kits. So it is possible that our numbers are, lower than what they actually are because, a lot of people are testing at home and they're not reporting that positive test to us, but we are, still encouraging people that, if you do have a rapid at-home test that comes back positive, go ahead and just jump on our website at missoulainfo.com and report that. It really helps us in public health to kind of keep a finger on the pulse of how much disease we actually have in the community right now. I think that in the next couple of weeks, once people have kind of gone through that stock of at-home tests, we're likely going to have a better idea of how many positive cases that we have in the community. On that note, we have also seen a huge decline in the number of people that are wanting to get vaccinated for COVID. And so we are in the process of what we call demobilizing our vaccine branch. And so we are moving COVID vaccine back into the regular health department immunization clinic. Right now, we're still doing Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday by appointment, and then we have walk-in Wednesdays. And it's like that for all vaccine, not just COVID vaccine. But effective March 7th is going to be the first day that we will no longer be providing vaccine at our West Broadway location, but we'll actually be doing it through the regular immunization clinic. Another change that happened over the last month or so is that we're no longer doing universal case investigation and contact tracing. And so we got guidance from the state health department, and they've been talking with the CDC about trying to transition to, we are really reaching out to individuals that live in high-risk settings or people that, through case investigation, we find out that they're immune compromised and maybe they just need a little bit more extra assistance with monitoring. So instead of every single healthy person that tests positive for COVID getting contacted and monitored by the health department, we still encourage people that if they have questions, if they've tested positive, if they have concerns about risk levels, that they can certainly still call us at 258-INFO and we can put them in touch with a case investigator. So we're not closing that off entirely. We're still 100% available to the public, but we're doing a lot more targeted case investigation and contact tracing. And what we found is that really it's people that are living in group homes, long-term care facilities. We're prioritizing schools, obviously, because we've got kids that are condensed in a small space. But what we found by changing over to universal or from universal to targeted contact tracing, we are actually doing a lot more active monitoring, and on a daily basis, we're making referrals for people who are sick, who, maybe they know that they're pretty sick, but they're not really sure at what point they need to follow up with their healthcare provider or go into an emergency room. And so through our monitoring, those folks are getting a phone call every day. We're monitoring their symptoms. We kind of answer their questions for them. And then daily, we're sending referrals to the emergency room or healthcare providers when they really are too sick to manage it at home by themselves. So that's kind of a lot of the big things that we've got going on right now. I know a lot of people are asking me, does this mean the pandemic is almost over? And I know I've gotten that question about 1 million times over the course of the last couple of years. And right now, we don't know. We would like to hope that we are getting to the end of the pandemic. But we also still know that there's a possibility that a new variant of concern could become, you know, the predominant strain of COVID, and we could be right back where we were in the fall whenever we were going into that Delta surge. I know that there's the subvariant of Omicron that they've been really keeping an eye on. It's they're saying that
Did Cindy freeze for you guys?
She did.
Bummer. Okay.
I think she has to leave and then jump back in.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
I lost her. Yeah, I think that's.
I wonder if she even knows. She's probably still talking.
Right. Are you able to shoot her a text, Kyla?
Yeah, it looks like she hopped off, so she might be trying to rejoin.
Okay.
Give her just a minute here. There she is.
all right, can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna leave my camera off. My Teams has been kind of acting up today, so it seems that whenever I want to be on camera, Teams wants to kick me out. So I don't know where I lost you guys.
You are starting to talk about subvariant of the Omicron.
Yeah, so they think that this
Not working.
Yeah, the audio doesn't work either.
Maybe we have her join us later, or better luck next month.
Yeah, I'll send her a message and maybe just see if she can call in and we can connect that way if that's possible for her.
That's a great
later in the
idea,
agenda.
Great. Okay, Chet, you want to, or Lori?
Yeah, I don't see that Chet was on the call yet. But he
Oh,
was
there
actually,
he is.
oh, there he is in his car.
I am here. I'm multitasking as usual in the evenings, but and I will quickly hand this off to Lori. But we just wanted to take a few minutes to go over our CAPS annual report with folks on the call tonight. And Lori has been awesome in pulling this together. It's been a feat to get all the various things going on within CAPS into one kind of cool digital format. So Lori, I'll let you take it away, and then I'm happy to answer questions too if folks have things that go beyond the actual presentation within the story map. So Lori, take it away.
All right, thank you. So I just posted a link to the story map in the chat, so you guys can take a look at that later. So good evening, and I am happy to share the annual report with you. Let's see. Give me a minute. So each year, CAPS, we create an annual report summarizing the work that we have done by staff over the past calendar year. We also give a look into what we'll be working on in the future. And last year, as Chet had mentioned, we switched over to a digital format. And we're going to continue doing that format probably for the near future. And so when I'll share my screen here in a minute. Let's see. So each section, as you can everyone see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great, thank you. Each section, each division within CAPS will have their own section, and within each section, we have a little bit about each division, project highlights from 2021, a little staff introduction, and some quick glance information about sort of the key things that happened for that particular division over the year. And, you know, to end it up, we have kind of what we're working on in 2022 and beyond. So I will start with the administration and outreach. The administration and outreach staff provides overall direction and support for the Office of Community and Planning Services. They work with all of our 4 divisions: planning, grants and community programs, parks, trails and open lands, and climate action, to provide assistance to public, support community engagement efforts, and coordinate with other county departments. So this division is made up of the director, assistant director, office manager, 1 full-time and 1 part-time administrative assistant. So because of that makeup, this particular section will look a little bit different than the rest of the sections, just because the diversity of work that we do as the administration team kind of varies from position to position. So one of the things that we've been working on is the strategic adaptation. So as you know, our community continues to face a variety of challenges, and we as staff are looking at better ways to support our divisions and better address community needs. And this involves looking internally at our own organization structure, and with that, considering new programs and services that we can get off the ground to help our community members and help our teammates. Staff has been working on supporting new initiatives, and some of those include wildfire mitigation, collaborative recreation management, the lawn strategic work group, infrastructure planning, enhanced engagement with the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes, and the River Ambassador Pilot Program. And so these are all partnerships that we have with different agencies and organizations in the community. We've stayed busy with reaching out to our community and our constituents. So we sent quite a few things having to do with the zoning code and map update. We assist in the public hearings on development proposals. We've helped out with the community needs assessment and the housing action plan, just to name a few. And each of those topics will go into further detail in the other sections within the report. We also have been going under a pretty substantial office remodel, both interior and exterior, and you'll be able to see a kind of a cool before and during of the front of the building that we've been kind of working through over the last 2 years, maybe. So we've had a few new private office spaces built in the office, and this was all happening in the last year. So it actually was somewhat to an advantage that we had quite a few people still working remotely, so we could actually get this done and not totally interrupt everybody's work schedule and ability to do their jobs. So that was quite a bit of work on those of us who were in the office during this last year to organize and kind of take care of business. So here is what I was talking about earlier. This is what our building looked like before, and here's what it's looking like now, which is a pretty amazing difference and probably completely unrecognizable to people who have not familiar with the old facade. And here's our team. We have Chad Krauser, director, Karen Hughes, assistant director, me, Lori Heyer, office manager, Donna McCammon, and she's the part-time admin support, and Heather Powers, and she's the full-time admin support. So, as you know, the admin staff provides support to not only the community councils, but other volunteer boards and committees for the county. So that's a total of 16. And we kind of crunched the numbers, and we figured that just in meetings alone, and this is not including meeting prep or like post-meeting work, that we've spent over 230 hours in meetings, providing whatever kind of administrative assistance for staff and volunteer boards and committees needed. During this last year, CAPS hired 5 new people, and that's kind of challenging to do and bring them onto the team during a pandemic, and also during our office construction when they didn't have a workspace to set up in. But we were able to do that pretty successfully, and I think everyone's happy with how it went. And I had mentioned earlier, we sent out a lot of postcards, specifically for the zoning code update, but as well as a few other smaller projects that we were working on with planning staff. And in 2022, we're looking to facilitate organizational modifications to better align department divisions and serve the public, incorporate outreach with the new Missoula County Public Voice public engagement platform, which I think everyone will be very excited to see that come to life. I know we are. And then guide and support the work of all the divisions to serve Missoula County communities and residents. And then at the bottom of each section, you can click on this link and it'll take you directly to their program website. So next we have climate action. This is a small team. The Climate Action Division was created in 2017 to advance climate action and resiliency work throughout Missoula County. This team has been working tirelessly to help our community address and adapt the impacts of climate change. So as noted, this is a small team and it's made up of just 2 people, the Sustainability Program Manager and the Climate Resiliency Coordinator. And it has gotten a lot of traction with the 2 people that are working in it. So up until April 2021, we only had 1 person, and that was Caroline Lauer as the Climate Resiliency, the Sustainability Program Manager. So we brought Caroline Lauer on in 2021 in April to work on the Climate Resiliency Plan. In this new role, Caroline is primarily responsible for implementing Missoula County's Climate Adaptation Plan, Climate Ready Missoula, which spans 8 sectors and ranges from how we grow our food to ways we can address the public health ramifications of wildfire smoke. So some of the things that have been done have been establishing the first ever Wildfire Smoke Ready Week with partners. Caroline has been very helpful in working with the Food Policy Advisory Board to help them look at ways to strengthen the local food system. And they've been fostering an emergent partnership with All Nations Health Center and Headwaters Foundation to further integrate traditional ecological knowledge into Climate Ready Missoula. They've also made some huge strides in carbon neutrality in Missoula County operations. So the goal is to have carbon neutrality in government operations by 2035, including installing the largest solar array in the state at the Montana County Detention Facility. The solar array is projected to save the county nearly $400,000 over its lifetime, after taking into account the cost of the solar panels themselves. So this project is groundbreaking for several reasons. In addition to being the largest rooftop array in the state, it's the first in the state to make use of a novel financing structure. By working with third-party investor who will own the panels for the first several years, the county is able to take advantage of the federal solar tax credit that would otherwise be unavailable to local government. We've also adopted a new energy efficient building policy for county-owned buildings and contracted with energy services company McKinstry to identify energy savings opportunities in the 2 largest buildings, the detention center, a detention facility, and courthouse. So saving energy helps us meet our goals while also reducing the county's utility bills and saving taxpayer dollars. It's a win-win for the county, for taxpayers, and for the climate. And Electrify Missoula, another great partnership that you can see in the photo. Missoula County Sustainability works closely with Climate Smart Missoula and the City of Missoula on Buildings for the Future, a joint program to make Missoula's homes and offices healthier, more affordable, more comfortable, and more energy efficient. As part of this program in 2021, the new Electrify Missoula campaign was launched to transition Missoula away from fossil fuels and toward a healthier, cleaner, all-electric future. And you can read more about it at the link below. And 100% clean electricity. Missoula County continues to be a statewide leader in our efforts to address climate change by shifting toward cleaner electricity sources. In 2021, we entered into a local agreement with the cities of Missoula, Bozeman, and Helena to in order to jointly hire a consultant to support our work with Northwestern Energy to develop a renewable rate option. If successful, renewable rate option will advance our 100% clean electricity goal by giving Northwestern Energy customers the option to buy power from a newly developed large-scale renewable energy project. Also in 2021, Missoula County stepped up our involvement in the state policy arena to support our clean electricity goal by filing to intervene at the Public Service Commission when Northwestern submitted an application to build a new gas-fired power plant. So these are the two that make up the climate action team, Diana Mineta and Caroline Lauer. And this is where the rest of the report kind of strays a little bit from the first section you saw. We do have a little fun fact about the staff. So the two program staff members both spend their free time listening to podcasts about clean energy and climate resiliency. Some of their favorites are How to Save a Planet and Volts. And so far, the Climate Ready Missoula plan includes 77 strategies to build our community's resilience to climate change. Implementation of the plan involves dozens of partner organizations and is a true community effort. Though the plan was just adopted in 2020, nearly 70% of the 77 strategies are underway for planning stages, or in the planning stages, pardon me. For more, go to the website, and unfortunately this does not have a hyperlink, but it should be pretty easy to find. And the Detention Facility Solar Project, the largest rooftop solar array in the state, includes 1,152 solar panels with a total capacity of 432 kilowatts. That's enough to power about 50 households. So in this year and in coming years, they're going to be continuing to advance all of the initiatives that I've just read to you through Climate Ready Missoula and the county and partner organizations. They've attracted outside funding from the EPA, Environmental Justice Grant Program, and the Partners for Places mini grant program, both of which will accelerate plan implementation. And for county government operations, they'll be building on our solar and energy efficiency efforts to develop a comprehensive plan to achieve carbon neutrality by 2035. They'll be preparing homes and businesses for the future with our expanded Electrify Missoula campaign, and will continue to push for a future powered by 100% clean electricity. Moving into the grants and community programs. So this division provides support for a variety of community needs and programs aimed at improving the quality of life for Missoula County residents. Their expertise in grant acquisition and management supports a wide range of county projects and priorities. Their administration of county funding and partnership engagement with community organizations are essential in providing critical services throughout our community. And this is a team of 6, but there's currently a vacancy, which is the housing coordinator position. And to go into more of that, the development of the Missoula County Housing Action Plan breaking ground. So you may have seen that in February 2021, the county hired its first housing specialist. And over the course of the year, we worked closely with community members, organizations, and stakeholders from across the country, an Econ Northwest consultant to craft Missoula County Housing Action Plan breaking ground. The plan lays the foundation for sustained investment in housing affordability, thoughtful land use to accommodate new residents, and movement toward the county's housing vision, a community where every family has a home they can afford. And again, you can visit the plan by clicking the website. Another big development that the grant staff was a part of was the Ywca Meadowlark Family Housing Project. So we secured $450,000 in community development block grant funding to help support the cost of the YWCA's new family housing facility, domestic violence shelter, and administrative office. The $12 million facility opened in May of 2021 and includes 25 units, 13 for survivors of domestic violence, and 6 overflow rooms to support families, for a total of 44 housing units. The new building also includes community rooms and kitchens, play areas for children, an outside playground, a below ground secure parking garage, and administrative offices for YWC Missoula and Missoula Interfaith Collaborative staff. And you can find more information at the link. And this is a pretty significant highlight. The Japanese American Confinement Sites Grant awarded. Missoula County received $533,000 in grant award from the Japanese Americans Confinement Sites Grant Program administered by the National Park Service. The award was the largest award in the country and will help restore and reconstruct 2 original barracks on the site where the Fort Missoula grounds served as a World War II internment camp from 1941 to 1944. The barracks are 2 of the nearly 30 that were used to house more than 2,200 Japanese resident aliens, Italian nationals, and a small number of German nationals interned at the U.S. government's Fort Missoula Alien Detention Center during the war. The grant will allow the Historical Museum at the Fort Missoula to increase their efforts to preserve and interpret the most intact internment camp in the United States, bringing awareness to the continuing issues of social justice. And so you can find out more, and this is really neat. They have on the Fort Missoula Museum website, they have a virtual barracks tour. And so it kind of goes through and it has a lot of, I mean, it's what you would see if you were to actually visit the museum itself. But in lieu of doing that, you can take a look online. And finally, the Missoula Food Bank and Community Center. And this will hit home for a couple of you community council members. Missoula County secured $256,276 in community development block grant, CARES Act funding on behalf of Missoula Food Bank and the Community Center. With a 3-year grant funding, the Missoula Food Bank will provide grocery services for 22 families in the Futura Mobile Home Park, as well as twice monthly deliveries and food distribution services in Lolo and Bonner. The Montana Department of Commerce has allocated this one-time CDBG funding through the CARES Act. The funding is intended to help Montana communities increase their resiliency to the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. So you can find out more as well. And here is the Grants and Community Programs team. And this is something that we found out when they first joined our department, is they do love pie, and they have that long-standing tradition of celebrating a successful grant application by gathering to enjoy a slice of pie. And favorites include cherry, pecan, strawberry, rhubarb, pumpkin, raspberry, and key lime. And they do this because they realize that everybody on that team has contributed to the piece of the pie that they received in the grant award. And some of the numbers that they had for the last year. So they were able to provide services to 50,535 people, which is pretty incredible. During the last 18 months, they acquired over $5.4 million in grant funds on behalf of Missoula County. 887 citizens completed the community needs assessment. They managed $5.9 million for projects and services in the areas of housing, homelessness, human services, infrastructure, arts and culture, economic development, criminal justice, and public safety. And finally, 8 environmental site assessments were completed through the EPA Brownfields grant. So I had mentioned that they have one vacancy, but they do have another position that they're looking to fill. So, and that person would be focused on acquiring and managing funds to make made available through the American Rescue Plan Act and Infrastructure Bill. They're working on the Home Buyer Choice, the state's first scattered site community land trust down payment assistance program. And it will be launched in partnership with Trust Montana to preserve long-term home affordability. They will begin working on implementing the Housing Action Plan. And the county will provide expanded funding to help support the cost of IDs, birth certificates, and driver's licenses for Missoula County residents in need. And finally, they will continue to actively engage in community coalitions, planning processes, conversations with county departments to ensure that the grant acquisition efforts are in line with identified needs. Moving into Parks, Trails, and Open Lands. Parks, Trails, and Open Lands is a vibrant and adaptive program focused on conserving and connecting the places we share and enjoy. They are made up of a small staff with a broad and complex set of responsibilities, having a wide-ranging impact on community health and the natural environment throughout Missoula County. The Parks, Trails, and Open Lands Division has a staff of 5, program manager, Parks, Trails, and Operations, Parks and Trails program project specialist, Open Lands project manager, and a part-time administrative assistant. And something that they were able to put together, which is a really neat feature, is they have highlighted in a separate interactive map all of the some of the bigger projects that they were able to accomplish in 2021. And you'll be able to see this probably and play around with it on your own. But you can see all of these little flags are the different projects that they've been able to accomplish throughout the county. And so it's pretty wide ranging. And I think they've only highlighted about 10, but this is only part of all of the work that they have done and continue to do. So some of these are in your neighborhoods. I'm trying to think of what we can highlight, but if we wanted to look at the veteran, how this works, the veteran memorial improvements in Seeley Lake. And so this was, a lot of it was accomplished through the funds from the county Parks and Trails Matching Grant Program. And if you have any questions about any of these projects that they've done, the Parks, Trails, and Open Land staff would be more than happy to take a phone call, meet over coffee, something like that, however people are most comfortable. So you can see how the map moves as we move through the different projects that they've accomplished. And I think it looks like there are some additional photos to see how things have been improved and the work that was being done. So a lot of great work, a lot of time spent, a lot of partnerships help make this possible. They also were able to award $38,000 in grants for Parks and Trails community projects. And this infographic shows how much was awarded since 1983. So that's the grand total. And the majority of this is just where the breakdown for each community, where those funds came from. Or went to, rather. So they were able to provide funding for the Seeley Lake Lions Club from the last 2 grant cycles for improvements at Clearwater Park to help construction of a new playground. With plans to engage local students in choosing a playground structure, the community is abuzz with excitement about this project. The other 2 grant recipients will use awarded funds to advance community-driven projects. So there was some money awarded to purchase hockey nets, grade the ice rink, and make improvements to the warming hut at the Seeley Lake Rocks Community Ice Rink. And there will be an effort to replace a 2nd through 5th grade playground at Target Range Elementary School. And here's the staff. When they aren't enjoying the many Missoula County recreational opportunities, some of the staff's favorite places to explore are Glacier National Park, Montana's Cabinet Mountains Wilderness, Northern California's Lost Coast, Yellowstone National Park, and Oregon's Ywca Mountains. And they have some very interesting numbers. It's going to take a minute to render. There we go. So parkland managed, 362 acres, 89 parks. 4,500 acres of open space protected. Their shared use plan had 445 survey takers with 87 unique trail projects identified. There were 989 trail visits along one summer day along the Bitterroot Trail in Lolo. They've maintained 31 trails, 42 miles, and with $2,400 of grant funding secured. And they also were able to get 140 hours contributed by the Weed District's youth and restoration crew improving parkland. So for the future, after they've conducted a fairly robust program assessment in 2020, they are taking a more proactive approach to conducting business. While in the past, they relied heavily on volunteer community partners to advance opportunities, the staff is also now pursuing county identified priorities and revising program processes to address community recreation and conservation needs. So expect to see more of this good proactive work in 2022 and beyond. And finally, planning. Planners focus on current and long-range planning operations. Planning staff reviews development proposals for compliance with county and state regulations and county policy. Long-range planning staff works with the public to develop county policy and implementation tools. So while there are two somewhat distinct planning divisions, there's current planning and long-range planning. In current planning, there are 5 planners, which includes the floodplain administrator, and there are 4 long-range planners, which includes our senior GIS specialist. So 2021 was a year for firsts. The commissioners adopted the Swatupkin Neighborhoods Master Plan and Form-Based Code, a joint city and county planning project aimed at getting ahead of growth pressures in the area of West Reserve. CAPS also jointly worked with the city of Missoula to identify areas for planned growth. Together, they worked to develop and adopt a joint land use plan and zoning code, which established a coordinated approach to managing growth for that area. It was the first time CAPS developed a zoning code concurrent to a plan, effectively codifying the community's vision for the area with the plan's adoption. Reaching another milestone, the county coordinated a major infrastructure project with land use planning. The planning effort was designed to maximize the $13 million federal build grant the county was awarded for road design and construction between Mullen Road and West Broadway. And finally, through the public outreach process, which we began when the COVID pandemic first shut the country down in 2020, was called the world's first virtual charrette by the National Charrette Institute at Michigan State University and received national attention in multiple land use planning publications. And as I'm sure you've all heard of, the county continues to work on the new zoning code. So they made major progress this year toward the adoption of a new zoning code for Missoula County. Throughout the course of the year, planners and staff held numerous outreach events, including open houses, online workshops, tabling at community events, public presentations, and dozens upon dozens of stakeholder meetings to develop a working draft of a brand new zoning code for Missoula County. After reviewing and listening to all comments, the team updated the draft zoning code to better align regulations with community values and address the needs and wants of our citizens. Once in place, the new code will ultimately improve the quality of life and access to resources for current residents as well as future generations. So to learn more, we have the mczoningcodeupdate.com. The first hearing on the proposed code with the Missoula Consolidated Planning Board is scheduled for March 1st at 6 p.m. And then a subsequent hearing with the Missoula Board of County Commissioners is scheduled for May 5th at 2 p.m. So a little bit about current planning and permitting. Current planning and permitting includes review of subdivisions and subdivision exemptions, zoning and rezoning projects, land use and zoning compliance review for building permits, violations, and permit review under the county's floodplain and shoreline regulations. The team is closely monitoring Missoula County's housing situation and is working toward real-time reporting of new construction and lots created for housing. In general, there's been a gradual uptick in all forms of development over the past 5 years. For example, land use, zoning compliance permits have increased about 20% from 5 years ago. Additionally, I'm missing it too. In 2022, there was a substantial increase in adjustments of preliminary plats and rezoning requests, which paves the way for hundreds of lots preliminarily approved in the 2000s to be platted once developers have met conditions of approval and installed necessary infrastructure. What does that mean for getting housing units on the ground? Most of the permit reviews continue to be for housing units, particularly single residential units. Data from 2021 shows a modest number of new subdivision lots for residential and commercial industrial uses. Far surpassing these numbers are future residential units created through the buildings for lease or rent review process and new lots created by recording subdivision plats. Not surprisingly, with increased production and potential for residential development, we've also seen an increase in storage units. 778 units were approved through the building for lease or rent review. Many of the subdivision plats filed this year represent legacy subdivisions that were phased over long periods to address waning demand during the economic crisis of the late 2000s. Subdivisions that were dormant for over a decade found new life in the past year, with multiple phase filings in a calendar year for some subdivisions. Subdivisions approved in the last 5 years typically move toward final plat filing at an accelerated rate due to current housing demand. And while the number of new subdivisions approved in 2021 was low considering housing demand, the development projects entering the pre-application phase broke records with a total of 68 projects during the year, compared with between 14 and 33 annually in the past 5 years. This interest in development is reflected in the fact that subdivisions representing 271 lots are in some stage of completeness review as of this writing, with many more expected within the calendar year. And finally, some of our floodplain and shoreline highlights. The Clearwater and Swan River floodplain maps have been updated to provide more reliable and more detailed information about flood-prone areas along the river. The Bitterroot, Clark Fork, and Rock Creek floodplain maps are being updated with new hydraulics and hydrology. And finally, floodplain and GIS staff are finalizing the 2021 5-year community rating system audit submittal. This effort will help maintain standing in the CRS program, which reduces flood insurance premiums for all county citizens. And here's the team. Members of the planning staff have worked in approximately 25 Montana jurisdictions. 4 planners serve on either the Montana Association Planners Board or the AMFM Board, which is the Floodplain Shoreline Board, the National Floodplain Board. And we kind of went over this a little bit, but you can see sort of the increase of projects that have come through the CAPS office in 2021. And finally, what they're working on is they're continuing work toward improving our data tracking and presentation capabilities using Power BI, which is a software that can accurately track the data that as we receive it. The goal is to create a dashboard that displays metrics and data about local development activity. Some of the categories we have focused on include land use and zoning compliance permits, subdivision and subdivision exemptions, as well as other land use and zoning projects. Long-range planning staff will continue through the adoption process for the new zoning code and map, and once adopted, the entire planning team will work together to administer the new code. Long-range planning staff will then start working on their other projects, such as the growth policy update, Y infrastructure planning, countywide marijuana zoning, and airport affected area regulations. And that is the story map. Sorry if that took quite a long time.
Oops, you're muted. Thanks, Lori.
Oh yeah, and I see the link does take a while. There's a lot of data in it, and if I if there's a lot of feedback to that effect, I will work on what needs to be done.
Okay. Because we are kind of bumping up against time here, maybe if you guys have questions, you can shoot them to Lori. Is that the best way to deal with this? And thank you so much. This is such a cool storyboard. So in the last few minutes here, Dave, do you want to talk about human trafficking? And thank you, Kevin, for bringing this or suggesting this.
Yeah, hello everyone. Dave Bell, I'm the chair. I'm a volunteer from Missoula County. I'm the chair of the Human Trafficking Task Force. I think Mr. Nolan mentioned wanting to see some, just hear about, how we can pay attention in our community. And so I want to try to touch on that. There's a lot of information out there in Missoula County. I think it's good to take a look at the YWCA, the lifeguard group, and Missoula Project Beacon as places to look for information, maybe volunteer, donate some time to, and in general, knowing that if, see something, say something. So we can use 911 in an emergency. And then there's the Montana hotline, which is 1-833-406-STOP. And I can send this information so you don't have to feel like you have to jot everything down. Is it easy to share my screen on this?
It should be. Kyla will hook you up.
Okay.
Yep, I made you a
Thanks.
presenter, so up there you should just see the little up arrow, share content. It's up by your leave button.
Got it. Okay. I'll use that in a minute. So you can kind of think of the task force in Missoula County as a way to collaborate with local government, law enforcement, and NGOs. And we're also collaborating statewide and with other partners throughout the nation. So think about collaboration and networking when you think about the task force. It's a space to talk throughout the weeks if something comes up, and planning throughout the year and how to highlight this issue. I'm going to share my screen and just touch on a few other things. Go in here. Kyla, I'm not seeing the button.
Are you on
share.
a Mac?
I am on a Mac.
You have to have.
It's okay.
I was gonna say there's just a permission you have to go fix in your settings.
Okay.
Since I'm recording, you have to go in and do the permissions. If I can walk you through it, or you can just do without. It's up to you.
I'll just skip it. That's okay. And I appreciate everybody's patience. I've gotten to present only a few times, and so thanks for having me here. So the aim of the task force is to end human trafficking, obviously, through the process of education, awareness, and community collaboration with local, state, and federal resources and community partners. And I think, again, we see this in the lifeguard group, Missoula Project Beacon, and in the YWCA. And just noting, the YWCA saw about 30 plus folks that identified with trafficking last year. So that's pretty significant. when you get a chance to, MissoulaHumanTrafficking.com is a source that we have for compiling info and sharing our community leaders. There's also the Sentinel group, which is a phenomenal site to look through and see this project. That I'd love to share a couple of videos with you, but apologize, the connection's not there right now. With that said, it's such a challenging topic to talk about, and I think probably the best thing is to open it up with friends and family, just real briefly, and say, I this is something that concerns me. Have you learned about it? Have you researched it at all? Did you know that it happens and can happen within our community? And starting there is a good spot. One thing with the Sentinel project, and particularly with beer and wine distributors part, is they're seeing a huge part of the state that people don't normally get to see. And if you go to, I'll send links, the Montana Beer and Wine Distributors Association, they highlight their efforts, but I think that can be duplicated, and they encourage this to be duplicated with other businesses. So we can do this family to family, friends to friends, slowly growing stronger awareness and network by addressing the fact that if there's a highway and a hotel, unfortunately, this opens up the door for human trafficking. It's also something that can be hidden if you're not knowing what to look for. Just to point out a few signs here is people that are disconnecting with their friends and family. They don't have ID. One thing is that they avoid eye contact and appear timid. Dramatic change in behavior, not dressed for the weather. So our detective here in Missoula, that's highlighted on the beer and wine website that I want to show you, Sentinel Project. Guy Baker touches on this. If you're seeing an individual at a truck stop and they're dressed in a mini skirt and short shorts in the middle of winter, that's the time to say something. Touching on something that Mr. Nolan, how do you do this without getting involved? Well, you have to use your best judgment, obviously. If you can, take a picture of a license plate or a car without putting yourself, putting yourself in harm's way, do that. Our detective talks about people being the scouts and waiting for the cavalry to come in. So being aware, following up with friends and family if they're disconnected. There's other signs, and right now I'm looking at lifeguard groups. They're all over social media, so this would be one thing to look up. And we have a lot of this info on our website. Neck tattoos, a crown image. Unfortunately, there's also some things that are, as a parent and an uncle of 11 wonderful kids, I get nervous of how so vast the problem can be. And we can see this in dating scenarios where someone might ask their partner to do something for them, and through force, fraud, or coercion, which is the key identifiers with human trafficking or starters, they might get forced or fraud, or coerced into doing something for someone that they didn't want to do, right? So this might start as stripping or dancing and lead into prostitution, so forced prostitution. With that said, there's a lot to unpack, and I'd be happy to open it up to conversation. I don't know how you do it in your meetings here. Kyla,
Yeah,
you'll
maybe that
help
would.
me.
Yeah, maybe that would be useful, Kevin, or we can use the next few minutes here to, if you
Yeah.
have specific questions that might help get at what you're interested in.
Yeah, for sure. Man, David, thanks for being on here. This is good. In Lolo, I'm concerned. We've got a truck stop. We've got a little Days Inn. We've got a couple of gas stations, 2 highways that go 3 different directions. And I've seen things that fit the description of what you're talking about. See something, say something. And so I've got a connection with a couple of the sheriff detectives. But as far as getting the word out, so I maybe I'm a weird guy. I like to look for stuff like that, but I don't want to go pounce on the bad guys. I want to get the law enforcement involved. But I think our communities need to be more aware. Us as community leaders right now, getting us on board with it. Have you been, or maybe some of these other groups that you mentioned, presented at a community council meeting where it's the people of Lolo, for example, or Seeley Lake or other areas that I think are targets for bad guys, human traffickers?
Yeah, no, I appreciate your again, what you're doing is the scouting side that Detective Baker would talk about, and being aware and letting law enforcement know whether it's in an emergency situation of 911 or through the Montana hotline, which does work for people who are being trafficked. These are text or call scenarios. I think it's important to know that there's a significant amount of people working on this in Missoula County and statewide, and they're well aware of this scenario, but being the eyes and ears of the community and the leaders, passing on these crucial tips, which are, you see something, say something. If that's your blink, just trust that, and no one's gonna fault you for calling and it turns out to be nothing. So as far as going beyond that, I think it's networking with these local nonprofits who are set up. This is my first council meeting that I've attended one before just to check it out, but not presenting. So I'm new to this side of it. I did get a chance to present to a high school in town, and that brought up a whole bunch of questions too, to craft our presentations in a way that is effective and kind of encompasses everything. But I know that with the Montana beer and wine distributors that are putting out education to their distributors, and like for instance, Mountain Lion is also listening in on this, and they want to teach their drivers. There's Truckers Against Trafficking, which is another good outfit to share with people that they have an application as well, and there's a one for the buses as well. And it's just like, how do you take all this information and get it quickly enough to law enforcement and keep those tips going fast enough in the time of emergency? The lifeguard group does do school trainings through Lifeline. I believe that's what it's called. And I think, were you going to say something? Sorry.
No, keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We did the and the commissioners as well are all of them have been very engaged since I've been engaged since I've been volunteering in this capacity. I do this about 5 to 10 hours a week. January was a little bit heavier because that was a National Awareness Month, and the podcast that the commissioners have touches on there's two in January that touches on human trafficking, and they're really worth checking out, and we can send you links on those if you're not aware of those.
And it looks like Lisa has a
yeah.
I think Lisa has a question in the chat. Are there tips that actions that can keep informants safe?
Say that again.
Are there tips for actions that can keep informants safe? Is that correct, Lisa?
Yeah, just things that to protect ourselves, but can also be helpful. You know, to not get involved with people who traffic, but help those who are being trafficked.
That's a tough one. I'm not sure how to answer that because I don't get to work in this capacity as a volunteer. I keep hearing, keep yourself safe, and when it feels right, you can share that information. So, for instance, if you were at a gas station and there was a car right next to you and it just looked off, you know, that there's a couple girls in the back of the seat or something of the car. I mean, obviously you don't want to go out of your way to take a picture. It might get you involved. If you can remember the license plate, that would be one thing. I wish I could say more to that. With our families and our friends, I think that might be, as community leaders, the next best thing is just bringing it up, this conversation up, and saying, unfortunately, this happens here, and sharing the hotline number so that they can pass that on to their friends. If you want to volunteer, the hotline does need volunteers, and there's training for that. And that would be some great things just to task other people with, right? So this task force is, the idea is that, you know, we listen to what the major needs are, and we try to task ourselves with what needs to be done. And one thing right now is, it sounds maybe too simple, but just sharing that hotline number. If you see something, say something. Remind folks that no one's gonna be upset if that call doesn't turn into anything.
I think it's just important to create, community awareness. So some people might not even recognize what seeing something means. And so I think it's just encouraging the community, all of us, to be a little more heads up and eyes open, and thinking about this, because we have an interstate that goes through our community, and this is what happens on it. And then same with as parents and folks who are involved with raising, because the list of things that you know, strange behavior, odd behavior, or people shutting down. I mean, you're kind of describing the classic teenager, and so
yeah, exactly.
But
yeah.
So it's important for us, you know, as parents to talk about and keep maintain solid relationships with our teenagers, so that they can take care of themselves and won't find themselves in these situations. Because a lot of times with vulnerable folks, you know, if in a situation you might not even realize what's happening to you until it's too late. And so helping folks be aware of that.
Right. And for parents and family, just being that person that says, hey, you can come and talk to me. Don't be embarrassed. And if you don't want to talk to me, you know, again, here's some support that you can lean into. So
And
It
Kyla, do you
gets-
have are there links for more tips for parents and for kind of online safety? And is that all I guess in the 3 links that you've set up?
Yeah, I just did the 3 links for the Missoula trafficking, the Sentinel Project, and then the lifeguard group, all for the Missoula.
Thank you. Yeah, the Sentinel Project website, in particular, if you scroll down, there's some survivor stories that are 2 or 3 minutes, but they're heart-wrenching but important to listen to if you want to be tuned in. And Guy Baker has one on there as well, so it's a good perspective.
Any other questions for Dave or Josh or Strohmeyer? Are we missing anything or need to add anything?
I'm good, Juan, just because we've heard this before, but I do want to thank Dave for coming out tonight. He's a volunteer and put a ton of his time into this, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Absolutely. And reach out. You can reach out to me if you have any other questions or want me to come in person sometime and talk more. So I just want to stress that from my perspective in the last over a year tuning in, there's a tremendous amount of help for survivors here in Missoula County. We're very fortunate, and we have some very solid links throughout the state. So,
Dave, can they just contact you on your Missoula County email address?
yes.
I'll drop that in the chat.
Okay.
Thanks, Kyla. Okay, I guess next stuff, are we at the round robin? I was feeling anxious thinking that we had to be done at 7:30, and then I forgot that this actually goes till 8. Sorry, everyone. So we have a little more time than I thought we did. So do we want to start with round robin? Oh, Kyla's typing. Here we go.
Yeah. Do you want me to call off the councils? Okay. Why don't we just go ahead and start with Bonner, Bert, or Emily or Rick? You guys have anything?
Emily?
Yeah, I'll start with our update. The food bank is coming back to our community on the 1st and 3rd Wednesdays. And so we've got a plan in place to inform the public on that. And that'll be at All Saviors Church right there on the 200 and the frontage road. The fire station moved, so congratulations to them. The Bonner, we started implementing a Bonner history tidbit into our community council meetings. So they come and present like a 1 or 2 minute little history thing around for Bonner, and that was informative last time. This month we had James Jockle talking about the bear interactions in Missoula County, and that was an interesting presentation on all the different bear interactions and where they're having troubles with them. And the final thing is Bonner School wanted to thank the commissioners for reinstituting the school resource officer. I did meet him briefly 2 weeks ago, a week ago. Really nice man, and they've been really enjoying having him around the school. So thank you very much. That's all I have.
Bert, you have anything?
Yeah, I do. I got a couple of things. One is, interestingly, on the bear migration, was that all of the work done by the city, especially up in the Rattlesnake area, to force the use of bear-proof containers has actually moved the bear population toward East Missoula and Bonner. That's one thing that is. And the other one is the massive distance that those bears travel from time to time over a period of 6 months. It's just amazing if you go look at some of the maps. That's one comment. The other one is we've got a council vacancy that's not showing up. It's Don Felton is still showing up on the website, the county website, as being on the Bonner Council. He resigned a couple of months ago. I thought we brought that up a couple of times, but maybe it hadn't gotten documented. We will follow up on our end for that one, but we're looking for another council member. And I know I sent an email out, but I'm really interested in the TIF communications position that's being opened up in the city. There is a massive misunderstanding of TIFs and TEDs in the general population, and I think that's a great thing. And if the county can piggyback on that, because it's advertised as a full-time position, but the TIF communications will be semi-temporary and they'll go on into something else. But I really think that there's misunderstanding on TIFs from the community. They think we're using their tax dollars, and that's far from the truth. Last but not least, we're talking about clean energy, and I just want to put another plug in. There are going to be electric vehicles. There are electric vehicles. They're coming. Every manufacturer is making them. What are we going to do without the gasoline taxes? I'm done.
And I guess I should mention that we've got a pretty large development as a public meeting on the 9th in our area at the Old Bonner Mill site, correct?
The West Log Yard, right.
Right. So that's going to be one of the bigger developments coming up in industrial areas. So it's on the 9th at 5:30. There will be a virtual meeting. I'm sure we must have it on our Facebook page.
I think we do.
And I can repost it again. I'll get up to that date and we'll do it again.
And that's all we've got, I think.
Okay,
Feel
thank
like
you.
we're overwhelming with all three of us here.
Lots of updates. East Missoula, Lisa or Sue, do you have an update?
Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, I talked to Lee and she said there's not a lot of new news. I don't know if Sue has the dates for the East Missoula United Cleanup Day coming this spring. That's a upcoming event happening in East Missoula.
April 23rd.
April 23rd for people in East Missoula to clean out their yards and their homes and garages and get things cleaned up for the spring upcoming event. And we are again thankful to the council, the county commissioners, sorry, for helping with the Ole's lot here. We're looking forward to the new development, working with this developer to create something that's a win-win with the community and the developers. So that's us, unless Sue has something else.
No, we're coordinating the 23rd cleanup day, coordination with Earth Day. And it's just going to be one day this year instead of two. And I know the Republic Waste Management is going to be donating, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, another big garbage can since it was such a success last year.
Yes.
So it's a fun time for everybody.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Lolo, Kevin.
Yeah, we've been pretty quiet, been pretty well behaved out here. I do know we had 2 seats coming open this next election. So we did have the people filed to retain those, plus 1 for the alternate seat. So that's cool. So we'll have a full council plus an alternate. Not trying to brag, but we do it. Lolo's better. Move out here. We need to grow our population a little bit. Spread the wealth. And just thank you, presenters. Lori, for your reading. That was great. Good information. And then David, appreciate that, and those websites. That's all we got. Lolo's happy.
Thank you. Seeley Lake. Looks like we have Tom, Tom Browder on.
You do? Yeah, we had a good February council meeting because the state DOT, along with HDR, the engineering firm that's working on the Salmon Lake reconstruction, did a presentation and used our council meeting for that. And that's a big deal because it will start late this year and then most of next year from mile 5 to mile 9 is going to be a mess. And so it was a great opportunity for, for the community to talk about, look, you got to give us a window over 4th of July where you don't have it down to one lane around Salmon Lake. So yeah, it was a good meeting. And the only other thing is I really like the agenda tonight because I think we'll be reaching out to a couple of you for our next meeting. Particularly, I think the trafficking subject is one that probably could happen several times during the course of a year. So that's where we're at. Great meeting.
Thank you. I don't believe we have anyone on from the Swan and Evero. West Valley, looks like we have Tom Tucker and Jerry.
Sure, I'll start. Hi, everybody. Not much happening out here. We are actually celebrating the 13th anniversary of trying to get welcome to Frenchtown signs. So we're pretty excited about that. Working on getting on the funding cycle for phase 2 of the bike path, hopefully before 2030. They were able to find the files that had disappeared, but they're corrupt, but it means that there's a chance that they could in fact kind of piece them together. So that's good. Shane Stack is going to come out to our meeting on the 10th to talk about the 5 to 8 year plan to upgrade Mullen Road. And we still have 3 seats open and still actively recruiting. So Tom, do you have anything? Tom? Tom must have bailed, so that's all we've got.
Thanks, Jerry. I think that's everybody unless someone has any other updates.
Has Jamie Jonkel done his bear presentation to all community councils? I mean, the individual community councils, has he been doing that, or is that something we should do here as a group?
It would be great for East Missoula because we definitely have some coming down Jumbo into my neighborhood. So
it's a fantastic
had
presentation. So yeah.
Yeah, this
we had one of the collared bears.
I would say that it could be both. It can go to each council, or we could do it in a community total all council meeting. Either way, it's good information. He does a good presentation, and he does a really good job of answering questions. And we got bears.
And they're going to start waking up soon.
Well, I've got the little juvenile bear that kind of hangs around out behind my fence here and talks to my dogs. But
Bert, you should let him out of his cage once in a while.
oh well, he keeps my apple tree clean.
He's a fun little bear.
Yeah, he is. I'll bring some pictures next time.
Well, Josh or Dave, do you have anything to add?
I'm good. I'm just glad that everybody could make it and that we continue to have strong participation. And feels like we might be able to be in person in the near future. I think that we should keep doing this all community council thing, but it'd be fun to go visit some of the individual community councils as soon as everybody's in person.
Agreed.
I just hope you guys had a good time in DC.
Did. It was super interesting to be around people who are doing the same kind of work, but all over the country in different contexts. And I think all of us got inspired and learned a bunch.
I got a cousin who's got an office there, and if I'd known you were going to be there, she could have cooked you a really good Southern Mississippi meal.
That would be fun. I would appreciate that.
Well, we'll have to do that next time. And Josh and Dave recorded a tip of the spear episode today. I missed out. I was in another meeting, but talking about our time at in DC with National Association of Counties. So check it out.
Tune into that if you get a chance. And if you've not checked out any of our Tip of the Spear podcasts, please do. We have a whole range of different topics that we've covered.
I've learned something on every one I've listened to.
That's great. Is there, Kyla, is there a way to put a link to that somewhere that people can get to?
Yep, I can put a link in the chat.
Thanks so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and check out the human trafficking ones in January. There we had 2. Oh. Well, cool. Let's get to dinner, everyone. And
thanks, everybody.
Talk to you all next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.